Without any further ado, let me request our moderator, Mr. T.K. Ramachandran, and our four eminent speakers, Dr. Daisuke Kawai, Dr. Walter Ladwig III, Ambassador Pankaj Saran, and Ms. Sarah Story to please join us on stage. Thank you, sir. I would now quickly hand over the proceedings to the moderator. Sir, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much to the National Maritime Foundation for having invited me here for this session. I'm sure it will be an extraordinarily educating experience. We have three speakers who will initially talk to us about three different topics which have already been introduced in great detail by Vice Admiral Chauhan. The initial remarks that I would like to start off with are: one, connectivity is the mantra of the world. Not today, it has always been the mantra over the centuries. We know how the Cholas linked India to Southeast Asia, and we have references in the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea which talk about trade between Europe and India and many ports within India. More connectivity, more trade, more growth. That is the underlying principle. But that trade has to be safe, like was presented earlier, safe, secure, smart in this digital age, speedy, and of course sustainable, because green is again the mantra by which we all swear. And the build-up to this connectivity has to be graded in a phased manner, first at the sub-regional level, then the regional level, and so on. So today's session, the morning's session, basically talks of nodes. Now, when we talk of nodes, we always remember network science. So in a network, the nodes are the ones that are connected by the arcs. And here we have the nodes which are the ports, and they are connected by the routes, the sea routes. And for any such network planning, it's a very complex exercise. We need data, and we need data because we need to plan. And for planning, a multimodal kind of a system rather than just concentrate on maritime, because it's not just maritime routes that will connect. You have to be able to connect across countries using a multimodal approach. Therefore, in these networks, it's not just the maritime routes which will act as arcs, but also the railway routes, the road routes, and so on. And in this kind of a system, we will have to talk about different aspects. The first is, of course, the institutional aspect, the institutional arrangements that are required to put this entire thing together to ensure that in a rules-based navigation order, all the participants follow the rules that are there. And therefore, the institutional arrangements are important. Then the programs and policies. We talked about the BRI and the GDI. These are programs and policies that individual nations or the institutions that are responsible for these kind of movements, they put in place. Then the third is the financing. How will these get financed? What is the cost benefit of each of these routes? Which route is preferable, which is not? We might like to put a lot of routes in place, but ultimately the trade will decide based on economics, based on commercials, as to which route is important or not important. So the fifth aspect, like I said, is the commercials. And next is assets. You can't think of a hub and spoke model unless your assets, your infrastructure is up to the mark. And therefore, we might want every single Indian port to be a hub port, but we also need to ensure that these ports, the infrastructure that is required, the draft, the berth, the quay length, and so on. And finally, the processes and the documentation. It's good to talk about seamlessness, but if your processes, like Admiral Chauhan just mentioned, if your processes, if your documentation is not seamless, then obviously you are not going to have an efficient network. Therefore, the safe, secure, smart, speedy, sustainable. I love these words because all of them start with S. And this is something that all of us should strive for. And we in the shipping ministry have also looked at this approach, because whichever project or whichever program we take up, we look at it from a regional approach. So we have an institution like the Indian Ports Global Limited, which is now looking at operating or is operating the Chabahar port. And then we have many programs which connect India to Sri Lanka. Then we have the Indo-Bangladesh protocol, which connects through the riverine as well as this maritime route between India and Bangladesh. And now, of course, we are talking of IMEC. We are talking of the North-South corridor and so on. So on each of these issues which I just referred to, we have a brilliant group of speakers this morning. To talk on the commercials, on cost trade benefit analysis, we have Dr. Daisuke Kawai. And on the contemporary effectiveness of the BRI and GDI, we have Dr. Walter Ladwig III, fellow Princetonian. To talk about the nodes and the corridors, we have Ambassador Pankaj Saran.